Live from MMA Fighting Studios, this is Between the Links. And now, your host, Mike Heck.
The iconic voice of Esther Lynn welcomes you to a brand new edition of BTL, back on another Thursday. And a lot has happened since we last had a program, but I feel like that's something I say every single week before we start the show. But very little time to waste because of that. Let's get right into it. Let us introduce the panel first. The hot take kid himself, Mr. No Gray Area, the Baron of Boop here at MMAfighting.com, Jed Mishu, back on the show because where the frig else would he be? How's it going, Jed?
You know, I'm not ready for this. I've got a great competitor today. I always love battling him, but I don't feel like I can fight anyone because Kendrick has made all fighting meaningless. His level of hatred for Drake is so inspiring, aspirational, impressive that I hate, Mike. I hate. You know that I hate. And I think maybe I just have to give it up because if I'm not going to hate to that level, why am I even in the game, you know?
It's a great question. It's a great question. Something we all need to ponder at some point in our lives. But back on the program, back in your lives, more consistently on the hit MMA program, Morning Combat. You may have heard of it. It's won many awards. He is alongside Luke Thomas for that journey. You can even find his wise words on CBS Sports, the incomparable Brian Campbell, back on the show once again. How are you, my friend? Good to see you.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I hope by the end of this show that not only does Jed hate me, but maybe we can speak into that dirt hole's life. Guys, it's a live set. He's got to do his shirt laundry. He's got it hanging over the couch behind him. I mean, look, show some class for once. Thank you.
Why? What? It's not like I didn't know who I was playing today. Do you think I'm going to clean up for you, BC? Come on.
We're off to a great start, everybody. We're off to a great start. Let's get into the big news of the past 7 days because UFC 303 does not look the same as it did the last time we were on this program. We had a feeling it might look a little bit different by the time we came back on the show a week later. We thought we knew what it might end up looking like. Some things we could talk about, some things we couldn't. We have reacted quite a bit to the actual announcement of Conor McGregor being injured, undisclosed injury. Michael Chandler no longer fighting next Saturday in Las Vegas as well. New main event, Alex Pereira versus Yuri Prochazka 2 for the UFC light heavyweight title. Also, we got Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez in the co-main event. No Jamal Hill. Instead, we get Anthony Smith taking on Carlos Ulberg. And I think most of us in this space and most of us watching this program would agree. Yes, the vibes that a Conor fight brings, unmatched. There's no way you could actually replace it. And we'll get into where both guys go from here in a moment. But BC, look, I think the three of us were all in the same boat here, right? We critique the UFC when it's warranted. We praise them when they do the good thing. I don't think they did the good thing here. I think they did the great thing, BC. What say you?
Michael Heck, good Lord here. Look, here's what they did. A very, very good thing from this standpoint. Nobody can, take the lemons, make the lemonade when stuff is out of their control, quite like the UFC. And do I blame them for McGregor's setbacks or shortcomings here? No, absolutely not. Their response was, well, I wanted to say swift, but there was that 12-day period where they didn't go public at all about why the press conference was canceled. And then they basically withheld all the injury news and, continued to try to crap on the dirtbag media people who seem to only be here to stir up trouble and make one-eyed men really upset. But here's the point. Look, did they do great for the circumstances? Yes, they've actually increased my interest level in the card. We know when Conor's in the marquee, it gets pretty paper thin down the stretch. They've actually bolstered this card. But with this now coming and gone behind us, not the end of the McGregor answers, still a lot of the unknown, but with the UFC's handling, I do feel like I'm the only one that actually stood up and was like, hey guys, is this how we want the leading MMA promotion to move in the future? Just, covet news and they're hoard it in their armpit here and never bring it out and show us the light of day. To me, it was an interesting development and really largely a situation I hadn't quite seen as unique as this in the past. Credit to the organization for getting the train back on the tracks. Nobody does it better than them. Nobody is well oiled and more prepared for that. But at the same time, I do ask why. I do ask what the hell happened. Why is it still this many days later and we actually don't even know what body part was injured? If this is media in 2024, then I guess we're all Nina drama fans.
Jed, I mean, just seeing how they were able to put this all together, even adding another fun fight kind of out of nowhere. Hunter Campbell, very good at his job, as we could see. If you watch UFC Inc., you could see that. He is the man who runs the place. I mean, Dana's sort of the face, but Hunter's the man making all the deals and everything. Your reaction to what he was able to put together, basically with not a lot of options. And on top of that, your reaction to what BC sort of said, where kind of critiquing the UFC, just kind of keeping everything under wraps, because as Ariel reported on the MMA Hour many times, as we've talked about on the show, you can only kind of go by what's going on. And the UFC tried to save this fight. Everybody involved tried to save this fight until they could save it no more. And then they made the announcement, and here we are.
I mean, look, they've clearly done as best as they could, right? And there's nothing wrong with the outcome we got. I said when we did a reaction, I said, yeah, I think this fight card's better, because it is. It's not the same, but it is a better viewing experience. Even if, we probably aren't getting the best versions of Yuri and Poatan, even if we're probably not getting the best versions of Brian Ortega and Diego Lopez, who, this, I think there was sort of momentum that was going to happen in September. This is several months earlier than that. So, this is, to steal Brock Lesnar's favorite line, making chicken salad out of chicken shit. And it's pretty tasty chicken salad. Like, I'm very much looking forward to UFC 303 next week. I don't know why we had to go through all the rigmarole to get here. Like, yes, the UFC wanted to try and save it. Why was it so clandestinely, weirdly, like no one can speak anything about this? Because that just put it in the news cycle more for an outcome that seemed obvious from the start of it. And why is it still being so like closely guarded as to what the injury is? It's like, people get injured and they say, hey man, I ruptured my spleen or I tweaked my knee or whatever. And ostensibly this isn't that bad of an injury based on the fact that they were going to try and persist through it. So it's not like, oh, Conor's foot fell off and now he may never fight again. At least theoretically, it's not that. But it's just been so weirdly kept under wraps that it has taken on a narrative and a life of its own in a way that just didn't need to be. This feels like bad PR. Like, you can just come out and be like, hey, we're having some issues. Our plan is still this. You could say all the stuff Ariel did functionally, but just say it as the UFC instead of it being reported from somebody who you actively don't like. The handling of this is so weird, even if the outcome we get to is probably the best outcome we could have gotten given the circumstances.
Let's talk about Alex Pereira for a moment, Jed, because time and time again, this man just comes through for the UFC. Saves the day at UFC 300, saves the day again for this card. Shout out to Yuri Prochazka as well. I feel like he's not getting enough credit for stepping in on short notice. He was ready to do this from Jump Street. Pereira, obviously, did some negotiating, prize fighting, did it very well, and he's probably getting a huge bag of money to come in there and fight Yuri Prochazka, a man that he's already beat. Where do you think, Jed, that this puts Alex Pereira in sort of the, how do I want to put this? The UFC golden ticket pantheon. Like, does Alex Pereira, because he does this, if he goes out there and boops Yuri Prochazka again, gets a huge applause, all that, does he have now sort of a wild card that he can cash in on anything here? Like, if the UFC says, hey, we want you to fight Magomed Ankalaev, he could say, here's my wild card. I'm going to fight Anthony Smith. Or, here's my wild card. I'm going to go fight John Jones. Does he have that power right now?
Yes. 100%. Like, we kind of talked about it offline a little bit after the announcement. We've discussed it internally. I wrote about it this week. I don't know where in the list of greatest UFC signings of all time Alex Pereira falls, but it's pretty high end of it, because if you just within not even a full calendar year, mind you, since last November, He has headlined MSG. He, came in and wins the belt in his second title. He then jumps in and saves UFC 300. And now he jumps in and is the only person who could save the Conor McGregor fiasco. Like, the water he is carrying for the organization right now is immense. And the fact that he's doing it, and while he is doing it, has ingratiated himself to the fans and become a huge star, like in the process of doing this shit. This is like Shaheen Al-Shadi started it, and then a lot of people have taken it up on he is speed running a Hall of Fame career. That's 100% true. He is right now being like good Donald Cerrone. Like, if Donald Cerrone was an all-time great fighter, that's what Alex Pereira is doing. Is like, whatever, I'm in, homie. I got it. Weight classes interchangeable, but instead of like doing it and having some success, but also losing in the big spots, he's just racking up belts like in the process. It is an unbelievable series of events that has unfolded. If you played it back 100 times, I don't think we get things breaking as well as they have for Alex here. And because of that, because his willingness to jump in and save the day at the two biggest events of the year, bar none, 300 is the biggest event of the year, and the UFC shot themselves in the foot with planning. He jumps in and saves it. And 303 is then supposed to really actually be the biggest event just because it is Conor and it's International Fight Week. Like, those are always the staples for what the UFC wants. Saving both of those, like, if he's not Dana White's favorite fighter, I don't know who the hell is. And that's going to get him cachet. If he comes in here and if he loses, he just gets an immediate rematch. And so to some extent, low stakes here. Like, losing has repercussions, certainly. But like, the UFC will immediately run back a trilogy if he loses. So he does have that safety net. And if he wins, he kind of can call whatever shot he wants at that point. You think Dana's going to come after 303 and be like, no, he's got to fight Magomed Ankalaev. He objectively hates Magomed Ankalaev. So like, he continues to be the main character of MMA. He is the man touched by God and walking in the light. And we are all just NPCs in the video game that is Alex Pereira's life.
BC, have we ever, obviously Conor had this meteoric rise and everything. What's the robot here? What's the robot?
I was NPC.
What are we trying to do here?
For you, okay?
Oh,
I'm sorry, I was stuck in Fortnite head. All right, I'm a dad who cares. Keep going, Mike.
No, fair. What do you make of this Alex Pereira rise? Because I feel like it just gets weirder and weirder and more interesting every time we talk about him. And yes, if he goes out there and beats Jerry Prochazka again and does so on like less than 2 weeks' notice, it's pretty goddamn ridiculous. And he's sort of got this golden ticket. Outside of Conor McGregor and maybe Nate Diaz to a certain extent when they all liked each other, I can't remember another fighter like who has put himself in this position like that. And a guy who doesn't really speak English at all. He says enough with just a look from his eyeballs across the octagon, but he's such an interesting guy. And what a meteoric rise this has been. He's got all this cachet and power right now. It's insane.
It is insane. And this is what happens when you have a small window and an opportunity to be great. You need to be great in those moments. And he has, rallying to knock out Izzy in round 5 of a title fight he was losing, right? But then how about coming back after having the same thing happen to him where Izzy stands up and knocks him out? Oh, he just moves up weight classes, takes apart top contenders one by one, and captures the title in the second division. He doesn't get to that level of unique history in such a small window if he isn't as bold and greater than we thought he could ever be in terms of rounding out the holes in his game, which were naturally large when you're transitioning careers so boldly in your mid to late 30s in that regard. He got with the right team and the right person in terms of a father figure / brother in Glover Teixeira that helped him close that gap quickly. But it was his willingness mixed with really perfect timing. It has been a perfect storm for Poatan. He probably doesn't get a middleweight title shot that fast if Izzy hadn't already cleaned the division simultaneously as they have a story. So Poatan needed to cross out a couple, things on his list, get a couple notches in the belt. He passed those tough tests, including the one against Bruno Silva, and he was there. Only he keeps piling on and doubling down. Will this be too much? Is it crazy to turn around on 2 months? Is he the only, he's been the savior for them, but it is sort of interesting that the biggest rumor on what Conor McGregor's actual injury is, and I know a lot of people are talking even the potentials of rehab, which I don't know, but it makes sense. I hear broken toe when I hear people speculating the most. Didn't Poatan have a broken toe coming into when he saved UFC 300? And didn't he break his toe just 2 months ago at a different toe? And he's going to bring that with him into this one. Yeah, he's the hero we need in the moment. And to steal a fantastic point that Luke Thomas made on Morning Combat this week, and I tend not to steal much from Luke Thomas, maybe beyond his soul, because that man's dark on the inside, and all of us are just trying to illuminate his past. He did say, you know what Poatan has kind of become? Everything Khamzat Chimaev was supposed to have been. The boogeyman who came out of nowhere, can move from division to division and capture championships in ways that he shouldn't in terms of his actual MMA experience and ability. But if he cleans this mess up for the UFC against Prochazka and defends his title again and does it in another spectacular knockout, think about the money in the bank that he will have in terms of calling his shot, as Jed mentioned. How about this for a shot called? Is Poatan not only the savior we need to save the UFC's 2 biggest cards and make up for maybe poor long-term planning by the UFC, but is he going to be the reason John Jones doesn't retire after Stipe? Because if I could see John Jones coming back for one more big payday at heavyweight, how about a guy who doesn't wrestle and is smaller moving up, going to try to become the first 3-division champion in UFC history? Wow, Poatan saved everything. You must feel bad for his ex-girlfriend, Merle, who certainly got the FaceTime in that Roku documentary series in the front row. But now no one's talking about her anymore but me, okay? But I remember. It matters to me, okay? I'm still in this, and so is Poatan. And I don't know if Chimaev will ever walk again, and it's a damn shame. But Poatan's your real man right now.
Jed, how does that make you feel hearing BC describe that as a man who wants to see John Jones and Tom Aspinall do the damn thing? This could be a thing now. Like if Pereira does it, he calls for John Jones. He's probably gonna get it.
It's 100% a thing. John would absolutely stop retiring if Poatan's on the table, because there's one thing that man has proven time and time again over the course of his career. It's that he loves to beat up middleweights. Like just loves to beat up middleweights. Lyoto Machida, Rashad Vitor.
Is that an indictment on the weight of that woman in the
loves
intersection?
To beat up middleweights. So
she was pregnant, Jed. Please have some grace here, all right? I don't know if I'd be
Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos. The list of middleweights can continue. And I mean, really, Poatan is the apex middleweight predator. So it's probably going to happen. And there will be people like New York Rick being like, look, he's the GOAT. He just beat Poatan. And I'll be screaming into the void, you're not the GOAT because you beat a bunch of middleweights. Like, fight Tom Aspinall, coward. God damn it.
Now this question I'm very excited for. And I'm going to start with you, BC. I'll let Jed kind of warm up to this a little bit, because reports are saying that the injury Conor sustained, whatever it may be, could be broken toe, who knows, could be worse, not real serious, and that people are at least optimistic about him fighting in the next few months. Maybe they could rebook this thing. Although there are some sort of scheduling things the UFC would need to overcome. I would say based on what they're currently trying to do, unless they add another pay-per-view to the mix, maybe December this fight happens. So the other side of this equation is much like to talk about Conor McGregor is Michael Chandler's been waiting since November 2022 for this fight to come together. So let me ask you, BC, if you are Michael Chandler's manager, his representation, are you telling him to move on, to take another fight in between, or do nothing, just wait it out, hope for the best? Someday your Conor McGregor will come, Michael Chandler.
Yeah, move the fuck on, Mike. Like right now, brother, okay? Get out of here. 2 years into this. You coached Ultimate Fighter like 2 seasons ago with this guy. Would it happen? Could it happen? Look, the biggest red blinking light warning sign, red panty night. No longer, okay, bro? Those, the biggest warning we had is the idea that maybe Conor could have pushed through and didn't. That means the ghost is gone. And I admittedly was so late to the party and wanting to ever believe and accept that. Why? I'm not going to lie to you, because Conor McGregor's arrival on the elite scene was simultaneous with my arrival on the elite MMA scene. That was the most fun, wild ride we ever could have imagined. It was the ultimate rising tide that raised everyone's ship, raised the fandom, raised the money the UFC brought in, raised the idea of watching a fight like anything can happen. Anything's possible after he did that to Aldo in 13 seconds, right? It's the greatest journey we've ever had. But damn, this journey's been over for a long time, and this is not an active fighter. He hasn't fought in 3 years. He hasn't won since before the damn pandemic, right? Like, he was trying to get Diego Sanchez in the DMs. Let's not forget, after he beat up on Cowboys. So, like, he's not walking through that door. I used to argue that he's got one more big win that will get him into some title shot he doesn't deserve. But outside of that Nate trilogy, maybe a Max rematch or insert old guy fight of choice, it's over. And if you're Chandler, you were already here for a good time, right? Which automatically means a short time. There are big money action rematches that any of us would fall over for. Him against Poirier again, him against Gaethje again, him against Eddie again. I mean, yeah, go that way, because here's the deal. I'm not here to say that Conor will never walk through that octagon gate again. He may prop himself up. They may prop him up. But let's not be naive to every single time we've seen Conor's head come up above water publicly in the last 3 years since the last time he fought. He looks like he's loose in turn four of life, worse than Dale Sr. at the 01 Daytona 500. I mean, I think enough time has passed where I can land jokes like that without everybody looking around at me. But here's the deal. That guy's gone. All right. So are you going to waste another half year and hoping that guy walks through the door? You still may get that fight, Mike. You still might not. One thing you do have with the UFC now is an incredible level of goodwill that you might actually get Max Holloway in a BMF title main event in a pay-per-view if you play your cards right. Start playing your cards. That's what I'm telling you right now, because that guy ain't coming back. And if he does, he's going to be a damn shell of himself. He might not even make it to fight night. And I hate saying that, because we all owe a debt to Conor to some regard, but the debt's been paid. It's over. Let's not waste any more time.
We also owe a debt to Rick Pitino for giving us the blanks, not walking through that door line. That'll live on forever. Jed, if there's one thing that I've learned about you over this incredible 4-year journey at MMAfighting.com is that you want the best for Michael Chandler, don't you? What are you telling him? Chandler calls you up right now. You're going to tell him the truth, Jed. You're Mr. No Gray Area. You're the Baron of Boob. Chandler says, "Look, Jed, I know you don't like me. I know we ain't gonna be pals, but you're going to tell me straight. No one else in this industry is going to tell me straight. You're going to tell me straight. Should I wait for Conor? Should I do something else? Should I move on completely? What are you telling him?"
Before I answer that, I would like to say that while BC was talking, it really resonated with me that if you just, until the end when he said we owe a debt or whatever, if you just swapped out the words Conor with Stipe, it's all the same. This man hasn't fought in 4 years. This man's a shell of himself. He's come off a broken man. When he comes back, it's over. He could have been making the same impassioned plea to John Jones to fight a real boy instead of an old retired firefighter. But I digress. Michael Chandler, happy to meet you. I've said a lot of things about you. I regret absolutely none of them. And I got to tell you, buddy, you've made me look like a hero this week, because your posting has really been, oh, I get why Jed doesn't care for him. You are posting like an AI version of an inspiration, like an influencer. It is so weird. Don't you dare feel pity for me. Be emboldened by me beating my head against this rock and just continuing down the stupidest course of action. Be emboldened by me. It has nothing to do with the outcome. I knew it was a risk, so don't like the weirdest shit I've ever seen. And then coming out with the, I'm still going to 303 because a man gives his word and he follows through. No, your word was you'd fight at 303, homie. You're not fighting, so what are we talking? It's the weirdest shit. Just stop being weird, dude. That's my big advice. I don't really care about Conor. Just don't be weird. Like, be a rational human and don't give like apocryphal biblical stories about Sisyphus and how this is your task and you're going to push endlessly against the rock because that's what you're supposed to do. Like, what the is any of this about, man? You are a prize fighter. I have been very on board saying I don't like you, but I understand where you're coming from. Like, this is a big opportunity and you want to wait a little bit. Okay. I have also been pretty much leading the charge of Conor's never fighting again. And this is another data point towards that. If you can't let it go, You wait for like the rebooking. The rumor is this fall. If it doesn't happen before Thanksgiving, you need to fight people because you have very few years left to make money. And every time you fight, you're functionally getting fight of the night. Like those paychecks add up. That is a meaningful thing. And to BC's point, you now do have some leverage here. You've got some, hey guys, the Conor thing's not happening. Let me get Max Holloway in a BMF fight. Let me get some other opportunity and take that, because the golden goose, the white whale is not coming, and you are going to spend the last remaining good years that you have as Captain Ahab. And I'm sure you haven't read it because it's a big book with a lot of real words in it. But the whole point of that story is not to be Ahab. You do not want to be endlessly chasing this thing that will never happen for you. So please give it another couple of weeks, another couple of months, and then move on with your life. You will be a better man and a happier man for it.
Wow. That was unbelievable. That was a great speech. BC, your reaction to that? You didn't seem that impressed.
It was entertaining, right? It was a great performance, but to try to tell Michael Chandler he can't do the impossible. When he signed with the UFC, and I had told you he would become a spokesperson for Black History Month, would you say that's impossible? Nothing is impossible.
Oh,
Nothing.
God. Oh,
Wow.
man. Michael Chandler. I mean, that's a great point, BC.
Thank you.
I can't believe that that's like a thing.
This might
I
be
hate him.
this might be the hardest round to score in the history of BTL. But we got to move on because there's so much other things we got to talk about.
I'm not crazy, right? His comments were the most insane shit you've ever heard. Like, I at least need BC to confirm that I'm not being a lunatic, and that the like, don't disrespect me with pity is the most ludicrous shit of all time.
What did you think of all that, BC?
I think I'm just waiting to get the point. You know what I mean? I mean, like, what's the point? Oh, Coach to BC sounds great. Okay.
All right. Drum roll, please. Point for round one. I literally flipped the coin. Heads was BC, tails was Jed. Heads it is. BC on the board, 1-0. That was
Brutal.
just what I thought. Jed had it. BC steals it. Just what I thought BC had it. Jed would come in and steal it. It was, back and forth, an absolute slugfest. It was Hamza Chimaev versus Gilbert Burns, all up here on BTL. All right. Big news earlier this
my
week
dreams
in
to a
the
shooting star. Shooting stars crash. That's what they do.
Well, there will be some shooting stars clashing in Tampa, Florida, ladies and gentlemen. We found out Jake Paul, who was supposed to fight Mike Tyson on July 20th. Now he's going to fight Mike Tyson November 15th, AT&T Stadium, Jerryland, Arlington, Texas, on Netflix. Still happening. Jake Paul's still fighting July 20th. He will return to Amalie Arena in Tampa, the site of his vicious knockout of Tyron Woodley in the rematch. His opponent, the star, the face of BKFC, Platinum, Mike Perry. And Jed, I will begin with you. Of all the Jake Paul fight announcements, there have been throughout all these years, this one by far has got the most positive response by like a floppity gabillion times. How positive are you in your reaction to this booking, especially after seeing the first virtual face-to-face between Jake Paul, umbrella in hand, poolside, and Mike Perry chilling in his studio on the MMA Hour yesterday?
Dude, this rocks. Like, this is so I was pretty pro the Tyron Woodley fight just because like it was early in Jake Paul's career and Woodley can at least punch real hard. And so it's like, okay, this is I get what Jake Paul's doing. There was real risk involved in that. And then the Anderson Silva fight, I think everybody was pretty pro Anderson Silva just because of that. But both of those weren't the same because Tyron Woodley is bad at trash talking and Anderson Silva doesn't trash talk. And in fact, that whole pre-fight build was like weirdly respectful between the two of them. So, it was just hey, Jake Paul's fighting a dude who can box. So like, let's see how that goes. This fight was like the moment it was announced, I think everybody was on board and I was like, yep, Makes total sense. It's terrific. And then yesterday on the MMA Hour, it was just like, this is the answer. Like, God love Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz was never going to win that boxing match. And two, Nate has never actually been like a great promotional foil for the talking bits. Like, he'll have a good moment or two at times, but like you've seen currently with the Masvidal thing, he doesn't want to do a big press tour and go to 5 different press conferences and see BC 8 times and be like, he's telling BC, dude, I like you, but I'm sick of seeing your ass. This isn't who I am. It's not what I'm about. Mike Perry will do, like, he will go on the MMA Hour every week and do the exact same shit with Jake Paul. And every time it will be silly and ridiculous and a perfect like opposing force to Jake Paul of just being like, you can't hurt me. Yeah, I'm not good at boxing, but you can't knock me out. And I'm going to keep putting my fist down your throat. You're softer than baby shit. Like, he's going to say the most ridiculous shit. Like, who had on their bingo card that within 4 minutes of these two dudes talking, we would get to a takedown of the American education system and their schooling? Like, it is so like outlandish and it's perfect. Like, they are going to do a brilliant job promoting opposite one another. The fight will probably honestly be pretty fun because when is Mike Perry not in a fun fight? And I'm like genuinely interested in how this goes because this is the first time Jake Paul is fighting some dude that he's not like massively advantaged over in youth, speed, athleticism, etc. So this is a home run. This is so much more compelling than the Mike Tyson fight to me. The Mike Tyson fight is obviously much like 303, frankly. Certainly bigger business. When that does happen, Netflix will get all of the viewers tuning in for that. People who don't have any interest in combat were reaching out about that fight. But that had a really dark undertone of like, hey, this almost 60-year-old dude, there are real consequences involved with what's about to happen. Whereas with Mike Perry, it's not. Like, this is A+ stuff, and I'm going to go. I will be in attendance, and it's going to bang. I'm so excited.
BC, this fight, I would guess, encapsulates all things your world, right? What do you think? How in are you on this fight?
To quote the great Chinese heavyweight Zhang Zhilei, they're going to bang you Chandler. And that is obviously the big calling card. But I have to compare the brilliance of the matchmaking of this to the brilliance of Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, even though it does have all of those same misgivings in terms of could the old guy get hurt, is that we actually don't know what Jake versus Mike Tyson is going to look like. You can talk yourself exactly into the Jake wears down an old man and makes him not get off his stool in the saddest way possible while doing backflips, as much as you can talk yourself into Mike landing one punch, Mike Tyson that is, and knocking him cold and breaking the internet. I think it's actually the same scenario, but a little bit different in this fight, which is why it's so brilliant. Because the second this was booked, every single person in my industry, fellow writers, editors, whatever, fans that have my phone number are texting me going, oh my God, Jake's going to get killed. He made the wrong decision. He picked the wrong guy. So you can certainly talk yourself into that reality that this is the first time Jake has to like fight a war, not a strategic challenge like Tommy Fury gave him, because it turned out he had a big jab and he was bigger and used that size more than we thought he would. But yeah, I can talk myself into the idea that Mike takes him into a level of bloody battle that Jake just can't swim in. But here's the other side of that. I can just as well, knowing boxing the way I do, talk myself into the idea that the whole buildup is what gets you to this fight. But what this fight really is Jake keeping him at the end of the jab and then squeezing and holding him anytime it gets hairy. Because let's not forget one thing. As great as Mike Perry has done, making himself a legitimate combat sports pay-per-view brand, there are certain advantages in the BKFC space, which I think do allow him to fight at weight classes over his head. He's a 170 fighter in MMA who's boxing at 185 in BKFC, but without the gloves, he gets in your kitchen. He squares up, he comes after you, he'll take your biggest shots, and he'll punch you directly in the mouth and make you question whether you want to be there. Professional boxing does have that little gap with the bigger gloves and the technique. And say what you will about Jake Paul, I'm not saying he's ever going to win a cruiserweight title or anything like that. But in this crossover space, he actually has some of the best technique. And when you give him that size advantage, this will be a 200-pound fight where he's coming down from prepared heavyweight weight. And Mike Perry's already over his head at 185. There are a lot of physical advantages here for Jake that I don't think people are talking about enough. either way, they talked us in the building. This is going to be an absolute banger.
I love this. I really do love it. It's so good. We should have done this like 2 years ago. And there's been a bit of a debate over the last couple of days
Yeah,
about
I think this
fight.
is the right time for it.
Oh,
2
100%.
years ago,
No, I mean, it's still, it's
this is
great. It's great now, especially with the Tyson fight looming in July 20th there. This is just so good. And I think one of the reasons why this is so good is because of the debate that it has sparked, BC. Because as we mentioned earlier, the Tyson fight is still on at the moment. And if you read the press release, the way the language sort of lays this all out is that Jake Paul and Amanda Serrano, who is also competing on this card, could be, and that's an important 2 words right there, could be putting their spots essentially on the line for November 15th. For Jake Paul, I mean, just a lot here. Tyson, Netflix, Cowboy Stadium, 85 to 100,000 tickets being sold for this thing. It's going to be massive. BC, is he taking a real risk here? Do you look at this fight and be like, man, Jake is really putting it all on the line here? Or is this just because New York Rick has been saying, like, Jake doesn't live by wins and losses. It doesn't matter. The Tyson fight is a celebrity boxing match with the pomp and circumstance, and it doesn't really matter if Jake loses to Mike Perry or not. Like, it's 2 dudes who are very popular and have huge fan bases. Changes nothing. Do you agree with that, or do you think Jake is really risking something here?
Up to a certain degree, I agree with that. I largely agree that it's not as much risk for both as people are saying. Look, Serrano's one of the all-time greats in women's boxing history. She's taking a stay busy, step down fight to just do that. Stay busy, cash another big paycheck, and set her up for that final cash out, which is a rematch with Katie Taylor, and maybe the promise of, if she can win, and by the way, I did score the first fight for her, produce an even bigger money trilogy fight. So I don't worry about it from her standpoint. For Jake, look, if you could see the future and you told me that he badly gasses out late and then gets caught, George Foreman style against Ali and just gets embarrassed, yeah, that's going to look bad for him. But even if he should lose a spirited decision or a action fight in which both get off the canvas, I still think it's a special thing that you're buying with Jake versus Mike Tyson that wouldn't necessarily be gone. And what you're buying is, can the young YouTuber ex-Disney guy hurt our hero and our favorite guy, or will our old man hero do the ultimate old man moment and put those YouTubers back where they belong? That's still in play, in my opinion, even if he should lose. And I think Jake has pivoted nicely from that Fury loss, Tommy Fury, where all the air didn't come out of the balloon. He's made some decent choices. I think the Nate fight kind of over-delivered on entertainment to keep some of that air back in the balloon of how long can Jake grab our attention. I do think when he tried to play the legitimate boxer role, it wasn't going to go too far. It was going to run out of excitement and lead him probably to a bad loss that would expose him. If he loses here in the spirit of action, I think he's still fine against Tyson.
Jay, what do you think? Is there a lot being risked here for Jake Paul? I mean, if Amanda Serrano loses, dude, she's not going to lose. Like, let's just put that out there. She's probably going to be a minus 22,000 favor by the time that fight comes to fruition on July 20th. But is Jake really risking anything here fighting Mike Perry? I mean, look, he could tear at ACL. Like, those are the things that to me are the risks. But if he just goes in there and fights and it's just a normal thing, do you think he's risking anything?
Nope. Nothing is at risk for Jake Paul other than brain cells. And brain cells are a real thing, like we all like to have as many of those as we can. But like, injury is a risk for anything. Like, if he's just training, injury is a risk. And like, fighting ups it a little bit, but there's not, he's young enough that, like, that's not really the factor you weigh in. Right. And I got to tell you, God love Mike Perry. He is legitimately one of the biggest stars in combat sports. Certainly for us, at least. Like, when he fights, people take notice, which is why I think it's better this happens now. Mike started to have this happen a couple of years ago, but he has really blossomed into like a full-fledged star. And so all of this is timed well. But as much of a star as he is, Netflix ain't putting on Iron Mike versus Platinum Mike. Like, that's not what Netflix is in the game for. They are in the game transparently for Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. And I think if Jake Paul loses, honestly, I'm more interested in the Mike Tyson fight at that point, because I don't like, BC is correct. We can never predict the future, we know what's going to happen. Either Mike is going to land a punch in the first minute that kills Jake because he power's the last thing to go, or if he doesn't, he's a 60-year-old man, and so he's got like 5 good ones in the barrel, and once those are shot, then he's just an old man fighting a young man. So that's how that will play out. But if Jake gets knocked out by Mike Perry, if Jake just loses, gets beat up by Mike Perry, I now suddenly think that Mike Tyson has a much better chance of pulling it off against Jake Paul, even though I think that honestly that fight probably shouldn't happen for moral reasons. But that fight is going to happen. It is the fight Netflix wants. It's the fight Netflix is going to get. And it win, lose, or draw against Mike Perry, everyone I know who doesn't give 2 shits about fighting will be like, hey, they're still doing the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul thing. Yep, it's on Netflix. Tune in and watch. Like, it's nothing is at risk in that sense.
And for Mike Perry, Jed, it's house money for him. Star power, it's only going to grow from this. He is going to introduce himself to a whole new audience that are probably really going to enjoy him. So, and on top of that, this is going to be freaking spectacular for BKFC because they will be mentioned in every single sentence as Mike Perry throughout the build to this. This event will probably impact BKFC way more positively than Francis Ngannou fighting Tyson Fury did for PFL, because all the talk on the Ngannou Fury broadcast were UFC, former UFC champion, former UFC heavyweight champion, maybe one mention of PFL in the entire broadcast. This entire build is going to be BKFC's Mike Perry. So if he goes out there, Jed, and he sells pay-per-views and and he puts on a fun scrap and he loses, yeah, I think personally he'll be bummed, but I still think he'll be in a much better spot in terms of how people view him. But if he wins, Jed, if Mike Perry goes out there and does this, may not get Mike Tyson, but what will this do for him, his career, the whole shebang, if he's the guy from the MMA world to go and lamp up Jake Paul?
I mean, it's huge for him. Getting the fight is huge for him, right? Like, and it's huge for BKFC. You're absolutely correct. Like, that's why Feldman's come out and said, like, thought this was a really good opportunity for us, because it is, like, because also there is more corollary between bare knuckle boxing and boxing than boxing and MMA. Like, it's not the same. People who are tuning in for boxing, such that they may exist, or tuning in because they watch Jake Paul box, feel like that's not that big a leap to be like, hey, you like watching Jake Paul box and he's kind of sloppy? Here's this psychopath who also does bare knuckle boxing. Check that out. And more people, I feel like that has a smoother pipeline than you want to watch PFL because Francis Ngannou knocked down Tyson Fury that one time. But for Perry himself, like, just getting this, you are 100% correct, Mike. They're going to love him. Like, the audience for this fight is going, if they don't know who Mike Perry is, they're about to find out. And I will be shocked if they don't gravitate to his weird, like, aesthetic, everything about him. Like, at some point they're going to have a press conference and Mike Perry's going to say something like, who's the booger man now, as he tries to put a booger on Jake Paul, and it'll be the funniest, stupidest, most childish thing, and everyone will eat that shit up and be like, I love this dude. And so if he wins, huge. If he loses, still huge. Doesn't matter, because as long as he doesn't get washed, he can still rematch Jake Paul down the line as Jake Paul continues to find new physical, like, things to do here. Like, yeah, I'll run it back with Mike Perry. That was a fun fight. It was a fight that people loved, and then they can have a rivalry built. And if he wins, he won't be too big for BKFC, I don't think, but he'll probably be pretty close to too big for BKFC. Like, I don't know where he will go if he wins this, because what other fights make sense for Mike Perry in the space? Like, Jake Paul is the apex influencer boxer. And so once you kind of topple that, where do you go from there? I don't know, but I will be fascinated to find out.
BC, what if Platinum goes out there and wins this fight? Like, what if he does this on months, 32 days after the fight is announced? He goes out there in Tampa, which is not far from where he lives. There's going to be a lot of Mike Perry fans in that building. What if he goes out there and just beats the soul out of Jake Paul?
It's crazy because It's possible. It is possible because the dog inside of Mike Perry, even if I'm arguing that the traditional boxing space could limit him in ways that like a street fight, an MMA fight, or a BKFC fight against Jake might not. Everything he's accomplished lately, we never would have guessed for him. I never would have guessed after getting cut from the UFC that he could become a pay-per-view star elsewhere. He's done that, right? He's become the face of everything BKFC is doing. I never thought Ocean's daddy would like be doing gender reveals and have us like legitimately cheering for him in almost like a Cody Rhodes pro wrestling arc type of way. And that's the beauty of where he's at right now. He could play the villain if he needs to against Jake's fans here. And he already has by being, man, I'm going to kill you by going that road. But us real ones who have followed him on this journey, he's got babyface written all over him. So we're cheering for that marriage to stay together. We're watching him as a homeowner and father. And then we watched him do something else that we never thought we would ever see him do when he went head to head with Conor McGregor. So that in theory didn't mean anything. It was in a sport where Conor can't in theory fight. But when Jed says, I'm not sure how you escalate up from that, it's a worthy statement given that Jake is the boss in what's left of this crossover boxing era. But the biggest boss possible in any discipline is Conor McGregor. And if Conor McGregor is the part owner of the promotion of which Mike is also the face of, would there be a worse time to grab that microphone and go, by the way, Conor McGregor, or boss, as I should tell you, and then do his own Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon routine of if there's any possible freaking chance of getting the UFC to allow co-promotion here and Conor to just double dip on both sides, knocking out or beating Jake Paul would give Mike Perry the only slim chance to do that. So why don't you do that? Because I'm telling you what, Conor's real life right now seems to be mayhem. Probably be easier for him to get in shape for a couple-minute bare knuckle fight than it would a 25-minute up and down war with Chandler. So if Mike does it, you better go for broke. Who would have thought they ever would have been face-to-face like they were that time? Who would have thought Conor would be part owner? Nothing's impossible here for Kevin Garnett in 08 with the Celtics or Mike Perry right now. Believe that, all right?
I knew that was coming at some point. Respect for KG. Chad, you love everything DC said there.
Conor can't work through what is apparently a not major issue to fight Michael Chandler. You think he's going to suddenly fight Mike Perry and BKFC and also get the UFC to sign off on that shit? Come on. For him to fight Mike Perry and BKFC, he has to come back and fight Michael Chandler. And he doesn't want to do that even.
Yeah. If he did, let's say he knocked Jake Paul out. I'm not saying knocked him out cold, but let's say he stopped him. How big is he at that moment? How big of a moment is that for BKFC? And if he calls out Conor after that, it'd be a conversation, right? Wouldn't it be a conversation?
No, because Conor's under contract. You think the UFC is going to be like, hey, Conor, go to BKFC and fight Mike
isn't
Perry?
There precedence with what Jorge's doing in boxing right now with Nate and the UFC getting...
Jorge Masvidal's the same as Conor McGregor. What in God's name was in that gas station hot dog? Yes, they're going to let Jorge Masvidal go not sell out an arena because who gives a shit? They're not going to let Conor McGregor go fight Mike Perry in BKFC. This is insane.
Hey, I never thought we'd see Coach Latore in the corner either, and it happened, okay?
Like,
I'm no longer going to be that guy when I'm talking about Mike Perry.
BC, it is so much more likely that if Mike Perry knocks him out, the UFC is like, hey, lend us Mike to fight Conor in the UFC, Dave. Like, that is still not probable, but at least that is possible. It is truly not possible that Conor fights Mike Perry in BKFC in the next 18 months.
All roads lead to Conor regardless, and I think you know that, okay? Ding, ding, ding.
Except for one problem, Conor's never fighting again.
Well, look, this summer, all roads are eventually going to lead to Perth, Western Australia. We're going from Tampa to Perth. Point for round 2 goes to... Yeah, it's Jed Meshew. It's Jed Meshew. That was so good.
Yeah, they're letting Jorge Masvidal do it. Yeah.
Like a lot of his sexcapades, he sold it with performance, but the real meat wasn't there. I'll tell you that. All right.
I am all sizzle, no steak.
Yes. Well, I mean, some people may feel sizzle, no steak for Perth, but Here we go. DDP versus Israel Adesanya, the worst kept secret in MMA. That is the main event for UFC 305, August 17th. As you mentioned, it's going down in Perth. We knew this was coming. We knew the rivalry was going to take place. The UFC could not afford to let this one slide by once again. They can't afford to let Sean Strickland slide in there and thump up the champion. They had to do it now. BC, it's official. Okay, it's not just in the rumor mill. It's not just, we know it's going to happen, just waiting for the announcement. It's right there. You can go to UFC.com. It's right there. DDP versus Izzy. It's going down. Your thoughts now that it's official?
This is great because my issue right now with the UFC post 300, when we had that great stretch of 3 consecutive cards, has been that post 300 hangover. And that has unfortunately led just 2 months later into the trouble it took to get 303 out the door with some type of substance in it. So what do we need? What's the greatest remedy when you feel like there's just not that buzz for your sport or your promotion at the moment? Put together a fight with actual buzz, with actual dislike between them, and a little bit of history from that time that Izzy was just raining the N-word all over DDP inside the cage, and it got real awkward. I know things have happened since that moment, and we never got that fight, but I think the things that have happened have only further complicated the middleweight title picture, but also aided in making this division arguably, while not as deep as beloved bantamweight or Jed's lightweight, as sexy or maybe more than all of those, considering the players on top and how they are sort of interchangeable against one another. You're adding in the added storyline of Izzy coming back to try to do the impossible a second time. While it's not impossible to come back and regain your title, the way he did it against Poatan was theatrical, unique, and sort of felt like a 1-on-1 type moment. It might explain why he did lay such a fat egg, in allowing Sean Strickland to disarm him and sort of just not really having heart in that battle and being able to find a way to come back in. Well, now he's got the opportunity to do this sort of and create sort of this Evander Holyfield-like legacy of a guy who, okay, maybe not the greatest in his division of all time, but could he come out of here with 3 separate title reigns, including 2, reinventions of himself after such devastating defeats? Sometimes that's the mark of what a true champion is. It's the right fight at the right time for DDP's arc. This is big business. I can't freaking wait. And a lot of fans are telling me that even though this is the Oceanic region, it's so far left, meaning Perth, that you'll probably hear more DDP fans there than you will Izzy fans. So Izzy going to have to really climb the mountain in a lot of ways in his advancing age to come back and prove once again that he is this division. I don't see really how you can talk negatively about this, but I'll give Jed the floor to attempt to do it.
I don't know. Jed is, the way Jed has been positive about DDP, the way Jed has put DDP over, the way he has sided with DDP in some of these huge moments, including the incredible Robert Whittaker prediction last year. I am kind of curious how you're feeling about this now that it's official, Jed.
I mean, so we're clear, I have been, I would say, the conductor of the let's do DDP Izzy fight. Like, I was all in on that, and I'm still all in on it. This fight is going to be dope because it's going to be real stupid. One way or the other. There are 2 outcomes. Both are very, very silly, and both appeal to me. Outcome A is that DDP is the kind of lunatic who will just run at you and punch real hard, and that will make Izzy have a fun fight because he is not a fun fighter anymore. He is only fun if you are going to Paulo Costa into him, and then it's like, oh, well, I'll take this. But if you are trying to fight a tactical stay away at range thing, he'll just kick you in the leg a bunch and win a tepid, boring decision. Poatan made him fun because Poatan started beating that ass. And then DDP will make him fun because he's going to force engagements. So either Izzy will get to be cool Izzy again, which is sick, or DDP's going to do real stupid stuff. And you're going to watch this brilliant, unbelievable technical kickboxer, one of the greatest strikers in the history of the sport, who got tuned up by a 1-2 and weird March frog stepping from Sean Strickland, get beat by a dude who just punches real hard. That's really the sum game of DDP striking is I throw real hard. And so either of these outcomes is joyous and eventful. And I love this fight. If I have to put anything down about it, if there's one negative to this fight, and it's not a major one, but it is, and it's not about the fight itself. It is just about the UFC as a promotion. Not doing this in Africa is a travesty. The UFC has talked about doing a UFC Africa for like 4 years back in the Three Kings era, and they could never pull it off for whatever reasons that they were. This fight came into being into the public consciousness as a like really sus, frankly, like you probably maybe don't want to lean into kind of the deep dynamics at play there, racial tensions, etc., of the true African conflict. But you just had to do, like, both men have said stuff like, we can fight for the soul of Africa, and I'll drag him to South Africa and drag his car. Like, you just got to do this in Africa. Doing it in Perth is real weird, particularly with Izzy as the challenger. Even though I understand that Australia and New Zealand are not the same place. It's just that, like, that's the only quibble. And I guess if I have to have a second quibble, Izzy popping out with promotion that is still up on his Twitter that's an AI Hitler video is real weird shit, but he's been doing a lot of real weird shit lately, so it's whatever. On the merits, this fight rocks, and I have absolutely no issue with it. I can't wait for this fight.
Well, many don't agree with Izzy's social media practices. GBC, you have something you want to add?
AI Hitler, yeah, no one agrees with AI Hitler.
Yeah, it's
well, crazy. I can't agree with AI Hitler. It could be, though, Izzy's way of hoping to just normalize the relations he has with his dog after the whole Sean Strickland debacle and all that went on there. That at least takes that end of it off the hook if you want to get weird. But the best thing Jed said, if you want to actually consider giving him a point for this round, but I hope he doesn't, is that responsibility on the UFC and their of late focus or obsession with shiny toys. And I certainly can make that argument with Power Slap, but also the Sphere. Look, I just saw the Den Company at the Sphere last Thursday. It was like literally life-changing and soul-cleansing, and somebody checked the toxicology reports. Good Lord. But the point of this is, like, I don't even know if that can work there. But the time, effort, and what are they, 17 million in the hole, Dana said, when we see the lengths that they had to go to for the two biggest cards just to keep the train on the tracks, 300 and now International Fight Week 303 with McGregor, it does beg that itchiness on you of, look, you're doing record year-over-year financial numbers. I know I complain about this a lot. I get in a lot of these videos for being a complainer. But go back to building stars. Care about that just a little bit more, because the second McGregor was off of a card that was purposely watered down because of his presence, in the cupboard's bare, just like it was ahead of 300, and trying to figure out how could the cupboard be bare when they're this much in control of a monopoly? The obvious answer is because they're a content creation farm. They've got too many dates. I think all of that is true. I don't want that to become a thing that handcuffs them, that they have their eyes off the prize. You're right. They probably should have put this fight in Africa and really put the motions toward doing that. Same thing with Yan Xiaoshanan against Weili Zhang at 300. Could he just as easily been in China? But I feel like the focus is not on necessarily what it should be to keep feeding this monster that they've created. That's just an editorial from me. Can't wait to see you in the next Dana video.
BC, what did you think of how the fight was actually announced? Because we didn't get a Dana screaming into a cell phone video, which is, of course, what he would have loved to have done. But Israel Adesanya just went and announced the fight himself on Monday morning, which seemed to annoy Dana White. If you watched the Jim Rome show, he didn't seem very thrilled about that. But what did you think of Izzy just basically saying, you know what? I'm not waiting for a Dana selfie video. I'm just going to do it myself.
I think it's a heck of a flex, because on one side, what a big part of Dana's stance in 2024 is not just his abject hatred of the MMA media, but it almost feels like an attempt to brainwash the regular general audience to agree with that. And the whole topic of when you go that road is everybody's, oh, the media is just sad and mad because they're being replaced by a bunch of influencers. But you get people that actually educatedly say, the media is kind of being replaced by the fighters themselves, because now in a lot of ways they're exercising realizing their own freedom to create their own channel and thus also have their own ability to dispense information. So I think if you're UFC and you're going so hard in the paint on dunking on the reliability or the true morals and ethics of MMA media, one thing that does open is the fighters to do exactly what Izzy just chose to do. It did feel a little bit like rebelling or trying to, create his own narrative, but if stars don't start standing up for the little levers that they do have and actually act like stars, it's going to continue to see 17% of the payroll get paid to the fighters and antitrust lawsuits just get folded and seized. Yeah, that's the direction it's going. I like when a guy stands up and says, no, I don't necessarily need to do it this way. Stop pressuring me. I'm not going to agree to a fight that you've already announced when I haven't signed the paper. That kind of stuff. A-okay on my end for Izzy.
Jed, I was told after, obviously, when you see a fighter tweet that announcement, you got to go to the proper channels and make sure that it's not just a fighter coming out and just saying a bunch of things. And I was told after this announcement was made, they signed for this fight a week before that. So this wasn't anything that like happened the day before or they just agreed to it. Pen went to paper a week before this announcement, and everyone involved was just sort of waiting for the UFC to announce this fight. But then Izzy was just like, hey, don't need to wait anymore. I'm just going to do it myself. What did you think of the way Izzy did it?
When did this get announced? This got announced what, Friday, last week, Thursday, Monday. Yeah. I don't know if you know this, Mike, UFC was kind of dealing with some other shit last week. So would have been a bit odd for them to come out and be like, hey, I know that there are rampant rumors running around surrounding UFC 303, but BT Dubs 305 like
softens the blow a little bit more, doesn't it?
Nah, because they already like it would have been weird to do that, right?
But they did that, Jed. They announced twice.
No, they didn't. They announced the fights to replace 303. They didn't say,
we were waiting around.
I know that this thing is happening.
Canceled. Were we not waiting?
Because
after the press conference got canceled, we were waiting for the reason why and if the fight's going on. And Dana said, "What's up, everybody? Rose Namajunas is headlining in Denver." He did that on 2 separate videos. No mention of McGregor, Chandler, or 303. So they're already doing that bullshit. I don't see how he can be mad at Izzy when he does bullshit on social media all the time.
I have no recollection of this, and I don't frankly give a shit. Because it would have objectively been weird as the reporting is growing more and more. Not just, ooh, this is canceled and odd, but like Ariel saying on Monday, hey, this is dying. And then coming out on Tuesday and like, just signed 305, guys. So it was like, there was just a weird timing to do it. I'm sure they would have loved to, but they were kind of putting out another fire. And so that's fine. I agree, BC. He shouldn't be mad at Izzy. But also, if I'm going to tell Dana what he shouldn't feel, that's a full-time job that I'm not getting fucking paid for. I'm not going to tell that man how to live because he's not going to fucking listen to me. Like, he shouldn't do 100 of the things he does. Almost everything. Like, if Dana would take me into his confidence, I would just give him the blanket rule of whatever your instinct is, do the exact opposite. That's probably a healthier, better way to go through life. But that's not who he is. It's not what he's going to be about. So, like, why do I give a shit if he's mad at Izzy? Like, I just don't care about that part of this anymore. Of course he's going to be mad at Izzy. Izzy's not an idiot. Izzy, I'm sure, knew that he wasn't ingratiating himself to the boss by doing that, but he had his own reasons, and that's fine. Like, it's however this unfolded is fine. It's weird that it took this long because we've known for 3 months what was going to happen. And I couldn't give a shit less about all of the rest of this. I care about the fight because the fight's dope. And 305, like, I mean, I don't know what else they're putting on it because frankly, if something happens, they're in a real tough scene right now with what we have announced. But that's a future us problem because for right now, I get the fight I've been asking for over a year. And that's all I really care about.
Fair. I mean, I'll tell you what, they just went ahead and announced that during that sloggy ass Vegas 93 card on Saturday. That would have been a nice little boost to that event, but that's neither here nor there. We have moved on from Vegas 93. So other fights on that card that are officially official, as reported about a month ago, Casey O'Neill is back fighting Teresa Bleda. Tom Nolan, Jed, one of your Contender Series standouts, fighting Alex Reyes. Some rumored bouts that are out there. Kai Kara France versus Vinny Siggs, Steve Urseg. I'm told there's smoke to that fire, so get excited. I would be stunned if it doesn't happen on that card. Another one I was asked about, Dan Hooker versus Drakkar Klose. Wouldn't get too excited about that one.
That would be a tough.
Klose was the front runner for that fight. But Drakkar Klose can't fight because he's hurt. So that's not the fight. was never really truly in consideration because he can't physically fight right now. Also saw a report, Jacob Malkoun versus Gerald Meerschaert. I have not heard anything definitive about that one just yet, but BC, not a fan of Malkoun versus Gerald Meerschaert.
I've got better things to do involving straw weights, but that's really my personal passion. All right.
Fair. That fight ain't getting out of round 2. It's going to be fun. Meerschaert's get or get got. He's either getting got or he's getting it. It's going to be a great time. But things are coming together. 305 coming together somewhat. And let's move on to this weekend. That's then. Let's go to now. Point for round 3 goes to Mr. Positivity, BC, 2-1. How about that? How many times you been called that in your career, BC? Mr. Positivity.
That's what I used to be known for until Dana started pressing my buttons, but whatever. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about UFC Saudi Arabia because boy, oh boy, has this card just become a mess of things over the last couple of weeks. Last week, Jed Bashu, we heard the rumblings. We talked about it on the program during the Q&A episode. Khamzat Chimaev reportedly out of the fight with Robert Whittaker. Turns out there was some truth to that. There were reports as we went live last week that Nasruddin Imavov was the front runner to replace him. As we talked about last Thursday, that was never really a thing because Imavov wasn't really going to be available to fight. And then Benny P reported on Twitter, it will be Ikram Aliskerov stepping in. Dana White confirmed that later on Thursday. And this is an interesting fight, Jed. Like, it's not the mystique of Khamzat Chimaev, but it's probably as close as you can get with what's available, right?
This fight rocks, man. The only criticism of this fight is that Ikram is getting a bit swift here. Like he's not been preparing for 5 rounds, and so I do kind of think that may ultimately play a factor here. But I love this stylistic matchup. I got to dive into it kind of in advance of this week once it was announced, and like just off the rip, people are pretty high on Ikram. He's a fun fighter. He does some like quirky, cool shit. And you're like, all right, this might be like a really fun middleweight dude who's in the mixed fights for a belt one day. And you're really watching, like, actually lines up really, really fun with Robert Whittaker, particularly because I'm fairly certain Whittaker is on the back 9 of his physical prime here. He looked slow against Paulo Costa. It just looked like he's not quite all there anymore. And so the matchup is fascinating. The issue being, I doubt Ikram gets it done early because Whittaker has largely been a humongously durable person, and Bob is just so heavily advantaged as the fight goes on. But as far as a late notice replacement, this is miles better than Nasruddin Imavov would have been, and this is just a way better situation, right? Like, no one gave a shit about Ikram fighting Antonio Tricoli. I know Tricoli himself was a late notice step in, and so you pull him off a fight no one cared about, have him step in as the best possible option for Robert Whittaker. Credit to Bob for taking the fight. And that's awesome. And then we still get Antonio Tricoli because he jumps in to get massacred by some other Russian dude gets to kill him now. So it's a win-win-win. Everyone is winning except for Tricoli, who is losing brain cells. But this is dope, and I'm really excited for it.
BC, thoughts on the new main event? I mean, it's not Khamzat, but Ikram Aliskerov, if you've been watching this dude fight, it's pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, he said everybody's winning except for Chimaev. Guy might not ever walk again, and I'm sure the Chechen leaders will be all over him to dispute if he does retire again on social media. But jokes aside, I've got the legitimate concerns. I think we should that Chimaev can't stay in a main event now, 0 for 5 and being scheduled. And if Poaton's already taken the baton from him of becoming that 2-division champion and that boogeyman out of nowhere, Aliskerov, ironically, is taking his opportunity when you consider the only loss in Ikram's career was by brutal knockout via uppercut to Chimaev. So that's interesting the way that it played out. But this still gives you one of the great tropes that we get in modern elite MMA. And we only tend to get it when it is sort of a special case scenario of last minute matchmaking where someone, doesn't necessarily have the full resume or have beaten the level of competition that would reward them the type of opportunity that Aliskerov is getting against a former champion in a fight that, should he look sensational, I mean, there really is no telling how big of a leap. The division's busy enough that I don't think he leaps from here to a title opportunity, but Yet at the same time, boy, could you make an argument for it, giving the class of Robert Whittaker. And I think Jed's not wrong on something, that Whittaker's in this back nine point, which means that any given fight, we could see a flash of great brilliance or the reality of the accrued mileage that he's taken. I think there was as much good as there was scare in that thorough victory over Paulo Costa, because he still takes big strikes, does Robert Whittaker. And he's not, overly large for the division and never has been. So it is interesting when he goes in there against the absolute young hammers. But then at the same time, who is Aliskerov beat on his level? The answer is no one. So you get that opportunity where you don't know if he's ready for the deep end of the pool. You're going to throw him in. And if he is ready, boy, is he going to announce his name. And the fact that we find out after the fact that Bo Nickel, of all people, got the phone call when he was like out hunting in Montana or something and didn't have his phone on and was not able to answer the call. That would have taken that beloved trope of throwing someone to the lions too early to the ultimate next level. It's what we wanted out of Chimaev, to be fair, from the beginning. He's had a lot of peaks and valleys due to illnesses, but when he first announced himself as the hero of the pandemic, I was almost ready to throw him into a title shot at welterweight, just because it's like, this guy's so great. I don't even know if he's green. Just throw him in there. We're going to find out. I wanted that too for Johnny Walker, but he couldn't get past Corey Anderson back in the day. It's rare, but it's going to happen. And if Aliskerov is the hammer that people like Luke Thomas says he is, Bobby Nux better be careful here, because these guys are don't take backward steps from Dagestan, and he's coming for big business.
God, can you imagine if it was Bo Nickel? Man. Both those fights would have been cool as hell, because I've been high on Aliskerov for a long time. But just look at the weirdness going on with this card, gentlemen. Just sort of June being June for the UFC.
You like the Bo Nickel matchup, Mike? I would not have liked that.
I'm not saying like it would have been super interesting. Like the reaction to it would have been friggin' nuts.
I think Whittaker kills Bo Nickel at this stage.
Would have been interesting.
Like
I don't think Bo loses a ton from the opportunity, though.
No, he wouldn't lose anything from the opportunity. It's all upside. Like I get why he threw his name in, but like I like this fight just way better, honestly.
Yeah, but this whole card's been wacky, because we lost Said Nurmagomedov versus Montel Jackson, then we lose Farid Basharat versus Montel Jackson, we lose Dennis Tulian versus two different dudes, Shara Bullet versus two different dudes. One decided to get all gassed up before he signed with the UFC, which he just admitted on social media. And now poor Antonio Tricoli gets this fight on 3 days' notice. And then today we find out Kelvin Gastelum just doesn't want to make 185, and Daniel Rodriguez has to jump up to freaking middleweight just to fight this dude. BC, Turki Al-Sheikh put some big boxing events together, obviously losing Tyson Fury and Usyk the first day, but then rescheduling it for a huge event worked out in their favor. But of all the events that they have put together in Saudi, this has got to be like the weirdest roller coaster ride of them. What an introduction this has been, right?
Yeah, especially when you consider the original, report from Ariel Helwani that the fight night card that they originally had was not going to be on this level. And they were sort of told that. Dana obviously publicly denied that, but getting that matchup, Robert Whittaker versus Chimaev, and the idea that you're putting that on in the States on the East Coast, just short of dinner time, was going to be perfect. That did seem like a big deal. If you can't get a pay-per-view, then at least get one of these quarterly UFC on Fox level cards where it's sort of a bad pay-per-view or well, we've seen a few of those lately. You guys remember 301? Wow. But my whole point is, yeah, this does take a step down. But again, given the circumstances, I like the risk they're taking with Aliskerov. I do wonder long-term, like what Saudi Arabia's relationship to UFC will be, considering the pre-established relationship with Abu Dhabi, one of the competitors in that space, in that area of the world, to attract big entertainment. I know that they're dialed in and they're going to sponsor the Sphere card, and there's going to be an influx of money there, but they're trying to literally take over boxing and form a league. And MMA, it's just sort of like, put a little money here, put a little money there. I want to see where that's going, especially since that latest report of just that, the full boxing league. And I did see some quotes from Dana White saying, like, if anybody can do it, it's Turkey. And Mo, by the way, we might join in on that if it happens. So a lot that could happen with that relationship moving forward. Remember when we used to talk about what would the Saudi Arabian money do to PFL competing with the UFC? We don't really talk about that anymore.
Chad, what do you think of all the moving and shaking and the craziness? Like, I'm still very much looking forward to Saturday. I still think this is going to be fun to watch. And I think it's, for a fight night card, still intriguing and there's fights with actual stakes involved, but it's been kind of a mess getting here.
Certainly has been a mess. I mean, most of it's like fine messes, right? Like that was the creation of the fights above replacement tussle scale was essentially like, oh, okay, we lost some fights. Some people have done weird things, funnily weird things. Shout out to Joelton for just coming out and saying that he gassed up. That was incredible. But like these aren't. It's fine to lose those. These were not the movers and shakers of the card, and the one that we did have, we've already talked about. Super weird, the Kelvin Gastelum thing, like where he just Danny Rodriguez immediately is like, yeah, we're doing it at 185 because he can't even make a 180 catch weight, and Kelvin's like, I'm having trouble. Like I don't. This is not a dude who should struggle to make 170, and his entire career he just can't do it. And the comedic timing of it is perfect because he had like it's been going around Twitter. There's just like a thumbnail of a YouTube video of him doing like a food review show called Missing Weight. And it's just like the absolute best thing for this moment in time. So it's super weird. It's very weird circumstances, but in the end, the event is still good. And the stuff that has fallen off and will not come back, most of that's all fine, right? Like the main event, we've got a good replacement. It doesn't matter who Shara Bullet fights. Like it's just the Shara Bullet show. So that's okay. And ultimately we're still getting D-Rod versus Gastelum, even if it's weird. Shout out to Danny Rodriguez for doing this. And so we're getting a good event. Like I'm pretty pumped about this fight card on Saturday.
Yeah. The way Gastelum was at media day, I was just waiting for him to have like a mustache grow on his face so he could twirl it around as he was talking about it. Cause he had this like evil, sinister look on his face. Like, maybe the weight cut might be a little tough. Mwahaha. And D-Rod just dying at the seat, trying to cut those last 9 pounds. You could just see how uncomfortable he was. Gastelum just looking fresh as a daisy. And D-Rod's like, all right, I guess this is what we're doing now. But real quick, I don't want to leave out the co-leaders, gentlemen. PFL Friday, pretty decent card. Bellator making the wise decision to go head-to-head with UFC Saudi Arabia, literally head-to-head with this card. Jason Jackson versus Ramazan Kuramagomedov is the main event in Dublin. We have the PFL debut of Paul Hughes taking on Bobby King. We get Sinead Kavanagh, Arlene Blanco. One of my favorite prospects in all of MMA will be competing on this card, Norbert Novenyi Jr., very high on him, fighting Dalton Rasta. BC, pretty good card here. Unfortunately, there ain't a soul that's going to watch this thing unless you're actually at the arena because UFC's way better.
Look, I've gone full on hater, and I hate to report this because there were times in the last couple of years where PFL really piqued my interest, and the new year for this year was one of those times. They talked a big game, talked about legitimately competing for the number one spot after absorbing the Bellator roster and bringing that in. I didn't expect them to compete on the pay-per-view level, but you got to compete in some form, whether that's with buzz, whether that's with ticket sales, whether it's even with the critical respect of like, okay, come to this organization because whether we're talking about Patchy Mix or AJ McKee or, insert name, we're talking about some of the best in the world pound for pound in their particular weight class. Even if you're boasting to levels that aren't true, at least that would be your calling card. What has PFL-Ator's calling card been this calendar year? Dude, confusion, if not just an outright avoidance from people. And I hate to say that. I didn't love last year. I thought they've been kind of going downhill slowly since that big post-COVID comeback year that they had. I had big expectations for this year, even after Don Davis laid out the plan on Ariel's show. And there were rightfully a lot of haters going, I get the idea of all these revenue streams, but like, if PFL and Bellator together is only so good to begin with, how good is it when you're breaking it apart and watering it down and spreading it around? And that's unfortunately what this has become. The $1 million tournament has no buzzworthy factor in any of the divisions in terms of like a great story that you can't miss. Kayla Harrison, let's say, coming back against Pacheco, none of that going on. And then unfortunately, some of their best fighters are fighting in Europe in Bellator rematches that they probably wouldn't be fighting anyway unless the roster was so thin. it has felt like the biggest nothing burger post that initial PFL versus Bellator pay-per-view card, which had some fun wrinkles to it. The idea of fresh matchups. Look, they could have done an Invasion Pro Wrestling angle. That would have been more interesting than what they're doing now. Or they could do what they're probably inevitably going to do, which is pool their resources together and say, if we got one shot at this, we've already tried things that haven't worked out, like signing Jake Paul or signing Francis Ngannou, who doesn't seem like he wants to fight MMA again, to be honest with you. But at least they'd be putting out pay-per-views with their biggest names and biggest matchups to at least make the chase for their titles matter or feel like something. The only thing that matters is that they're getting $1 million. But if you're the champion of the PFL lightweight division, then does that make you better than the people who are fighting in Bellator for separate titles? I don't understand it. I don't get it. I hate it. So, Mike, yeah, in some vacuum, those are decent fights. But I can't even go on the Cinemax or HBO Max app. You can't even replay the Bellator cards if you don't watch them live. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
I didn't know that. Really?
That's the truth. That's the damn truth. Forget about not
You
having
get highlights.
advertisements or anything.
You can't get like the full fight card. And I saw that pop up, BC. I saw some people make some comments about it. And I got to tell you, of all the things to bitch and complain about, not having access to Bellator replays is just like, honestly, kudos to you, Max. You know what's good for the people, and it's not to let true degens rewatch Bellator Dublin 6. It's just, you don't need to touch grass, be outside. Don't go down that road. So I'm fine with Max doing that.
Okay. Well, let's move on. Or maybe we won't.
No.
Go ahead,
No,
Jed,
we
please.
can't move on because I have to ask an important question. You all talked about it. We don't need to belabor a lot of the points. What the is happening? Like, why? Okay, you're going to Dublin, and this is the time slot for Dublin. Got it. Head to head with the UFC. Did we has the Irish crowd been clamoring for Jason Jackson versus Ramazan Kuramagomedov? Like, why? What is this fight doing here? Why is this your fight? You're counter programming the UFC with. Just what is the purpose of Bellator other than contractual obligations? Like, why is Jason Jackson like a legitimately one of the better fighters on your roster not competing at a PFL event? Like, what the is happening? That's my question for all of this is why is it so poorly handled? Because I do not understand this.
Well, I'm so happy that you brought that up because perhaps we will dive into that a little bit more. But the point for round 4 goes to Jed Meshew being Roddy Piper. Just when you thought, I don't remember the Piper quote, but it was something. He changed the questions, whatever just when you thought you had all the answers, Jed changes the questions. And that's what we're doing here. Final round, 60 seconds apiece for both of these gentlemen. I think you know where we're going here. Jed, what are we doing? You want to go first? You want to pass to BC? What are we going to take part in here with this final round saga?
I'll pass to BC. I'm not feeling it. Just pass to BC.
It's so funny. Every time you say like I'm not feeling it today, you come out here just electric
with
your take.
I wasn't feeling it, but then there's a lot of topics of conversation that get my ire up. We talked about Michael Chandler and John Jones, and that's going to take me one place.
Yes, it will. All right, BC. Look, we've already kind of laid it out. PFL, Bellator. You were hopeful, right? Heading into last year, things have kind of gone downhill. They absorb Bellator. We're thinking, oh, this could be really cool. They do PFL versus Bellator. Things are happening. And then the buzz has just kind of left. There's just nothing that's exciting right now. No one's really getting into what they're trying to do. So this is Shark Tank, man. You got Cuban and Don Davis and everybody just sitting there. They want to hear your 60-second elevator pitch about how we're going to get back on track here. PFL-ator. How do we get back on track to being the co-leader? Because right now, I think they're behind BKFC right now, which is tough. But that's where they're at right now. How do we get this ship back on course, BC? 1 minute on the clock, go.
you think I'm going to hit you with, Shark Tank reality here. This is more a kitchen nightmare situation where what would Gordon Ramsay do if he walked into this family institute of a diner? He'd go, look, your menu's too large, PFL-ator. You don't need to sell 79 things for lunch. There's probably 4 things on there that are good. It's like the same debate I look in the mirror every morning. Do you think it looks good that I got 5 different colors of facial hair between my head, the sides that I haven't colored lately, and this weird brown mustache? God, I look like Luke Thomas right now. The whole point is you got to consolidate what you do. If you're actually going to have a chance to compete, I think that you've worn out the $1 million season format. People don't really care. You do, though, have a combination of interesting crossover names, from the female ex-boxers and Shields and Marshall to the potential of what one Jake Paul fight or one Ngannou fight could do as a shot in the arm. You have to package it with the actual talent you have, with the Patchy Mixes, the AJ McKees, the Patricio Pipples. Make one league, one title per division. You can even be pay-per-view heavy, but as long as you're guaranteeing fireworks and the idea that titles might matter, it's better than what we're getting now, which is rematch after rematch going in circles of a round robin that doesn't fucking matter. Take the names that you have, promote the shit out of them, and maybe, just maybe, you let Francis Ngannou get away with too much power in that negotiation, because I'm not sure he's ever walking through that door. Dump the miles per hour, dump the smart cage, give me some gimmicks, flirt with the rules. Heck, hire me. Hey, let's go. Let's air out some public things. Remember the time you guys were going to talk to me about on-air opportunities and you just ghosted me? You dropped the ball. I got a popular podcast. I could be giving you positive previews all the time. You dropped the ball, not me, Smart Cage. Should have saw that one coming, Double D. Hey, I'm still for hire because times are tough right now. That's just the reality, though. Just to be fair. Just to be fair, though. Just to be fair. Right. There you go.
The longest 60 seconds in BTL history. It was amazing.
I have mad respect for BC. Just being like, I would chill for you. I would chill for you if you paid me.
Jed, same question. You heard BC's takes. How do we get this train back on the tracks? If it was really there in the first place, if it wasn't there in the first place, how do we get it on just rolling 100 miles an hour? Go.
We've talked about this a lot, and I've been saying this for several years. There was a major issue with Bellator, and it's why BC's plan doesn't work. If you just become Bellator by making one belt and unified, you know what you are? You're Bellator. How did Bellator work out as a promotion? They got sold for monopoly money. You can't be UFC light because, one, the UFC already has their own light brand. It's called the Apex, and we go there 2 to 3 times a month. If you have to run a different race. And so, like, I think the $1 million tournament league format has something to it, but I do think that it's over. You can't do it every year. My suggestion is twofold. One, you alternate that with bring back the IFL, baby, because while the PFL premise is people understand sports seasons and leagues, it doesn't work for individual sports. No one gives a shit about that in America, but you make teams and you do it, and it's fun and silly and ridiculous. And you can alternate that with your, individual seasons thing, so everybody gets some break. It's fun. 2, the only other way to handle this is you have to be exciting. The reason BKFC works is because they have short rounds and they incentivize aggression and violence. You got to just get a full new rule set so you don't have, I don't know, the Linton Vassal versus dude whose name is escaping me at this point in time. Like, you just got to be cooler. You got to overhaul.
There you go. Valentin Moldavsky,
that's it. That I watched.
What an epic main event that was. Yeah, it was tough.
You can't ever have those fights.
Can I just say something? It feels ironic here. The best thing that's happened to PFL since making all those big boasts was those fat heavyweights last week when Tim Johnson got kicked in the cone and it was a double knockdown. It was like, it's just like Fedor versus Mitrione. Only I think that guy kicked the other guy in the Johones. It was great. That's their best highlight of the year so far. Name me a better, more iconic PFL moment than that one.
Oh, it's 100% their best highlight. 100%.
I mean, Cedric
Dakota Ditcheva is fun.
Splinter is funny. It's a funny.
It is funny, but yeah, people just reacted to the moment more. But the nut shot knockdown combo was spectacular. All spectacular stuff. It's tough when that's the moment of the year for you. You got some work to do. They just
Bring
have
back
to get
the
out of their own
AFL.
heads that they are like the co-leader. We're there, everybody. It's just a matter of time. We just keep doing what we're doing. We're going to surpass the UFC. We're this balloon that just keeps rising. No, you're
Sign
not.
Eddie
You're
Hall.
so far away. You're so far away.
They should, and this is entirely serious, should sign Eddie Hall immediately. And have Eddie
Yes,
Hall
I
fight
love
Francis
that
Ngannou.
idea.
They might have to go full
Hey.
gimmick right now. That we may have to get
Yes.
Dada versus Kimbo too. However, any means
Eddie
possible.
Hall versus
right?
Francis Ngannou is instantaneously like a top.
Sign
8
Pooch
person.
too. Do
I just
co-promotion
assumed-
with KSW.
I assume Buds is just locked for life with KSW, but yeah, co-promote with them. That's fine. Would be dope.
Do it. Do it. Go
put
visit
on the same
Turkey and
card
make it
as-
happen.
McGregor Perry won. It'd be great.
It's a fictional card that will never happen.
I love that. All right, get your votes in. Get a couple more minutes, so we got to get the hell out of here. But preview show tomorrow, noon Eastern for Saudi Arabia. We might even dabble with some Bellator for a couple of moments. And then we'll have the People's Pre-Fight Show ahead of Saudi Arabia, 11:30 a.m. Eastern on Saturday. Very excited about that. Post-fight show sometime in the early evening, which is also spectacular. It's going to be a fun weekend, everybody. As we
Hey,
get you
Jed,
ready
quick
for
game.
UFC 303.
Show me something weirder than this Sergey Kovalev nesting doll I've got. All right.
Yeah, I gotta
Why
say,
do you have a
we get weird in that.
Matryoshka doll of Sergey Kovalev?
Oh, tell me,
I
there's
mean,
like
seriously,
8,000
what do I
followers.
win? What do I win? I mean,
Where did
yeah,
you get that?
yeah, there you go. You can't beat that. You can't beat that.
I don't
That's
think
the best.
anyone on earth can beat that.
Nope, I don't think so either.
You could do one of those with I was gonna say that you do Kelvin Gastelum, and then the one inside of it is Nazem Cross, and then the one it's we got to keep going down the line, but that'd be a pretty good
Yes.
gimmick. Why don't we let's merch that?
That's funny. That's funny. I thought you were gonna say you open a Kelvin Gastelum one, but instead of it getting smaller, it gets a little bit bigger.
That would also be funny. Well, no, try who's the light heavyweight Kelvin Gastelum?
Soon it'll be Kelvin Gastelum. At this point, right?
Kelvin Gastelum.
Okay, so who's the middleweight Kelvin Gastelum?
Oh man, yeah. Circle gets the square. Casey, who wins? We have a winner. Or are we still waiting?
We got a winner. We got a winner.
Okay. All right.
Your winner today with 55% of the votes. BC.
Yeah.
He's back, baby. BC's back. He gets it done. This is the best rivalry in all of MMA right here. They flip flop wins and losses every single time. It's incredible. BC, congratulations. What would you like to
Yes.
say to the people before you probably abruptly take off from us?
No, I'll hang around today. It's not like it's going to get awkward or anything, right? It's just how weird can we make it, right?
Who's
No,
the booger man
seriously.
now?
Jed put up a great fight. He's probably a nice man. He's got unruly hair, to be fair, right? And a law degree that's about as valuable as me on the poster of 1917, right? Yeah, that's great. Yeah, but thanks for having me, and thanks for voting for me, people. Truth wins once again. That's what I'm all about, just like Dana. Thank you. Yeah.
Jed, how we feeling?
Truth wins. Okay. Another preview show. So for those interested, this is a 6th Fights Above Replacement Tussle card. It's a very good card. We don't get them that often. Enjoy it. Saudi Arabia is going to be fun. I mean,
Yes.
if you're a certain subset of people there, probably not all that fun for many people there, but if you're a fight fan, be a good little Saturday.
There you go. Some tough news as we were doing the
God, what
program.
happened?
Oh, no.
Donald Sutherland passed away.
Yeah.
Tough. R.I.P.
Shout
to a
out.
legend. Shout
Kelly's
out Donald
Heroes,
Sutherland.
underrated.
Ain't that
banger.
Kiefer's data?
Yeah. Kiefer
I
announced
think-
it himself on the Twitter.
So, I think
Tough.
Donald Sutherland's probably known for other things besides being the father of Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah. Italian job. I mean, just little things that he just sort of flies under the radar, but just
Wasn't he
absolute
in Real
clobber.
Genius too, or did I just make that up?
Could be. MASH? He was
Uh,
on MASH, right?
He was definitely a mash. You guys should, if you haven't seen Kelly's Heroes, watch it. It bangs. It was like one of
There
my
you go.
favorite
That's your
silly
homework.
bad movies.
That's your homework before UFC Saudi Arabia.
Dude,
So
it's Clint
RIP to
Eastwood,
Donald Sutherland.
Don Rickles, Donald Sutherland, and
Don Rickles.
This
Don
movie
Rickles.
rocks.
No, I was
It's so
thinking of
dumb.
some
No.
other dead guy. Yeah. Some other
Yeah.
dead guy was in Real Genius. Like, Val Kilmer was great in that, though, right? Do I feel old? Yeah. It's great, though. It's great talking to you guys, though.
All right. Well,
Val
thank you
Kilmer's
all
not
very
dead.
much.
Just so we're clear.
Yes, thank you all very much. Much appreciated. We'll be back next week to get you ready for UFC 303, recap Saudi Arabia. Sure, we'll have other crazy things to talk about as well. BC's chair just continues to move. For BC, his chair, Jed Bashu, Casey on the ones and twos, and the iconic voice of Esterlin will take you home. I am Mike Heck. We'll see you next week. Good night, everybody.
Love y'all.
This has been Between the Links, an MMA fighting production on the Vox Media Network.